This is going to be a guide to explain the basics of two-tick flicking blobs in the Inferno. Two-tick flicking is a less intensive way to flick blobs in the Inferno. It lets you move while changing prayers, and it's easy to add monsters into the two-tick cycle. All you need to know about the two-tick cycle and how it works is that if a blob and a ranger or a major see you on the same tick, you can start two-tick flicking for 2 ticks as the ranger or major attacks, and then 2 ticks for the opposite style, and then you repeat it. There are 2 cycles of two-tick flicking, but I'll talk about that later. For now we'll just focus on the first cycle of two-tick flicking, which is the one you'll be using the most. If you are safe behind a pillar and there is a ranger or major and a blob on the other side of the pillar, you can step out praying against the bigger monster first, and then start doing the first 2 flick cycle, and it will be set up, which would be step around, pray against the ranger, then a ranger for another tick, and then mage for 2 ticks, and then against the monster after that, and repeat. If the blob is already looking at you and you want to run around the corner, you wait until you visually see the blob attack, and then you change your prayer and start two-tick flicking. You want to run around the corner on the second tick, praying against the opposite style, so that as the bigger monster sees you, you'll be praying correctly, and then you can just continue the cycle. If the bigger monster is looking at you, and you want to move to where blob can see you, you two-tick flick as if the blob is already looking at you, and then you move around the pillar using the same timing as the previous situation. If there is another big monster there with the blob, you would step around the pillar when you are about to change prayer to that monster to not take any damage. Assuming you already know how to one-tick alternate, start one-tick alternating, but now each other click the floor to move. So pray range, then move, pray mage, then move, pray range, then move, pray mage, then move. Once you get better at that, you can start moving your mouse as if you were going to click to move, but don't click. Then continue prayer flicking range, move the mouse, pray mage, move the mouse. This is the timing for two-tick flicking. Now try to add in movements while they are two-tick flicking, visualizing yourself moving around a pillar. If at the start of a wave, a big monster and a blob or multiple blobs see you, they will automatically be in the first two-tick cycle. What I like to do at the start of a wave, if this happens, is pray against the blob on the 3rd tick, and then back to the big monster and start two-tick flicking, as it gives you time to chin the nibblers. Sometimes when trying to go fast you don't want to waste the ticks perfectly setting up the two-tick cycle you're used to. So if the blob sees you a tick before or after the big monster, you will need to adjust the two-tick cycle. The way you can tell if the blob is on the second cycle is if the blob shoots on the same tick as the big monster. Earlier, when we said to wait until the blob shoots before changing your prayer, that's how we set up this cycle. So if you notice that the blob is shooting at the same time as the monster, what you want to do is change your prayer 1 tick after the big monster attacks, and then start two-ticking and repeat from there. You have to be careful when adding monsters to this cycle, as you have to do it off the prayers you are praying. Do not time it off the big monster, as this timing will be different now. If a mage and a ranger are 2 ticks apart, you can always adapt your flicking to either cycle, but if the ranger and major are 1 tick apart, it's situational if the cycle will work. So if you aren't sure, just 1 tick alternate if you end up with them 1 tick apart and you don't know what to do. Two-ticking lets you do more actions while changing prayers compared to 1 tick flicking. And once you understand how to do 2-tick flicking, the Inferno will be a lot easier to you.